I got another one. This is a Roni Kenshin fight. So people who watch Kenshin, Roni Kenshin, the '96 version or the 20 or the new one, the 2023 version that came out, 3 years ago. You know, season three is about to come out, like I guess next year or some point in time. I can't wait for it. I'm actually rewatching it right now currently, but um, I'm gonna give you this fight. These two characters, Aoshi Shinomori versus Seta Sojiro, right? So Aoshi Shinomori was the leader of the Oniwa Banshu group. He became the leader at age 15, and then he was killing people. He taught um, kempo to these people. He taught them um, sword acts, how to cut people down. He taught them how to like be better like mercenaries and assassins. They're ninja, and assassins, right? And they're hired by whoever has red, right? Seta Sojiro is basically Shishio's right hand man. You know, Shishio found him when he was a boy. He was abused by the people who were raising him, who were his family or his extended relatives. Something to that degree. And Shishio was kind of like a person who stepped in and saved him. You know, even though it was like he manipulated the situation. He seen the boy. Um, Man, he had the ability to throw away his emotions, and he was hard to read. This kid, Seta Sojiro. So that's why he's a tough opponent. And this boy's fast too. Um, he was actually able to break Kenshin Himura's Sakabacho, the first one he had. Um, so he ain't no he ain't a scrub. Out of the 10 swords, the Jupan Gantana, he's actually one of the tougher opponents. Um, so that being said, this fight's gonna be good. Just one scenario though. They'll just be fighting at like Shishio's hideout. All right, we'll just lay that out. Physical strength though, I have to give it to Aoshi. Aoshi, I think he is physically stronger than Sojiro. He's a grown ass man, and he's still a kid. He has room to improve. But speed, I give that to Sojiro though. He's quick. That boy ain't slow. Now Aoshi's fast too, but I think Sojiro can. He can figure that out. That boy ain't that much. So he was keeping up with Himura Batosa. And Aoshi was too, but I give the speed to Seta Sojiro. Durability goes to Aoshi. You Endurance, I'll give it to Aoshi as well. Seta, Sojiro relies on his speed, and also not just that, he's intelligent too. Like again, he's hard to read as an opponent, so he relies on that in the fight. He would even throw Aoshi Shinomori off. Himura Kenshin, who has better battle experience, was thrown off by Sojiro, but he was able to still figure out something. And Aoshi has that extra. If he has to fight longer, he can, and all that. Right now, that's why I gave him the endurance. And then Sojiro's smart though. Experience goes to Aoshi because he's been doing that shit longer. You know, close skills go to Aoshi. Shinomori, he knows Kempo. You know, that's martial arts, right? Yo, Sojiro don't know that, I don't think, but he has range skills. See, he uses a Kodachi. A Kodachi is shorter than a longer katana, right? I forget what they call that, but the longer katana, the long sword, that's the shit that Seto uses. Seto Sojiro uses that, so he has the range skills then. Recoup, goes to Aoshi. This guy falls down and he gets back up. That's what happens with him. Sojiro like never, he never like loses because he never fights anybody. He does, but I just think that Aoshi has that recovery better because he has that experience of having to bounce back and other things, right? Hacks, I give that to Aoshi. He has those kodashi. He has the kempo arts. You know, Sets only has the sword skills that he has. He don't have any martial arts under his belt. So, but the environment goes to Sojiro because they're fighting at Shishio's mansion, right? At his hideout. So, with that being said, Aoshi Shinomori wins. He wins high difficulty. But be cool, calm the corner, and if you know Rurouni Kenshin, you gotta leave some comments on this video, man. Be cool, calm the corner.